Should Christians support immigration? Now, immigration is a very hot topic, especially lately. Um, and the question is there a right or wrong approach? I would say not really. I don't think there's um, it's not a dogmatic issue. It's not a salvation issue. You can have disagreement with this issue, and I think that's fine. We shouldn't be very judgmental with this, where it's one size fits all. You have to do this or you're wrong. You can have disagreement. I personally lean more towards not being super supportive of it, but that's my opinion. And I've talked to people who disagree with me, and they're not any less of a believer. So that's the most important principle: is that this doesn't discount you from being a Christian if you are for or against immigration. In terms of immigration, though, I think it is important to understand two principles aside from it being a non-salvation issue. One would be level of governance. The government does not operate like an individual. The civil authority is different than how we as individuals live. And so many people will take verses out of context and say, well, Jesus said, help foreigners, and which is true. However, those principles are geared towards individuals, not the civil authority. So it might not be as applicable for mass immigration because it's not directed towards an institution, it's directed towards individuals. So the government is not an individual. The government, the civil authority, is different. It has different principles and it rules differently. For example, individuals don't have the right to kill someone who wrongs them, but the civil authority, the government, does have the right and the obligation to partake in carrying out the death penalty. So that's an example of the difference. Another example, another important principle, I should say, would be the order of love. And that it means as individuals, we have a moral obligation to those closest to us first and foremost. And this is also applicable to the government. The government has a moral obligation to its citizens first and foremost. And then secondary would be other people. Now, an important principle here is that the other individuals do not have less moral worth. Rather, the government or the individual in this case they have more of a moral obligation just due to the closeness of said people. So if it's someone in your family or it's your countrymen, that is why. It's not because those individuals have less moral worth or anything like that. So that's a very important principle as well. In conclusion, though, the government does have, it should be charitable, as we should as individuals. However, if it becomes a burden on the citizens of the country, I think there is a bit of a problem there. So I think that's how Christians should approach it. I think ultimately, though, we should approach it in love. This is not a salvation issue, and we can have disagreements. We're trying to lead people to Christ, not our political party.